admitted in the British court that he had no sources, made it up. And the second font was Glenn Simpson and the Fusion GPS that paid Steele and then passed it off to the government. And Mueller was asked directly, would you comment on the Christopher Steele dossier and Fusion GPS? Remember what he said? I have no knowledge of either one. What are they? What are they? You just spent $40 million using their evidence to go after people in a political campaign to destroy their civil liberty. The second thing that kind of epitomizes it was James Comey, unelected FBI leader, supposedly sterling character. He got under oath in the Congress, House of Representatives. He was asked questions about the investigation, his leaking of memos, his role with a forged affidavit. He said 245 times under oath, I don't know or I don't remember. Try that with the IRS and see what happens. And so I could go on, but we are creating unaccountable bureaucrats and functionaries that have combined the judicial, the executive, and the legislative branch into one person, and they have enormous resources. Out in California, if you're a farmer and you have a low spot in your land and a federal EPA official decides that he doesn't like you or he thinks that could have a high nitrogen, he can declare that an inland waterway and reinterpret the EPA Act and fine you until you come out without your permission and test your water. Why? I can't think of a reason other than he can. He can, and that's why he does it. There's a second group of people on the elite that want to denigrate or destroy or do away with citizenship. I'd call them the evolutionaries. These are not just the permanent. These are people who feel that human nature is malleable. It changes. It's not fixed. And with greater resources, nutrition, therapy, education, you can make a new human. If you have a new human, you don't need an old constitution. This was written by a bunch of old white men who were, some of them were slave owners. They were in a different era. They weren't educated. They didn't have iPads and iPhones. They weren't sophisticated enough. They wouldn't know how to use Google if you brought them back here. So we just need to junk that. And if it's not just the Constitution, it's 150, 180 years of tradition. So no sooner did this progressive movement take power and they realized we do not have public support. We came in through the COVID crisis and a lot of things that happened in that terrible year 2020. So we've got to change the system. Now we talked about changing the demography, but they said, first thing, we've got to get rid of a 233-year-old electoral college without any discussion what it was for. If you read the Constitution and the Federalist Papers, it was to disperse political power so that people would go to rural areas because the founders had a great distrust of what people are capable living en masse in crowded conditions, and they're prone to rumor and spice of madness and frenzy, and somebody who was a cattle rancher or a farmer might be a check on them. Or they thought if there was going to be fraud, you couldn't accomplish it with a single national election that would be broken up in the states and they might check. They give various reasons. They wanted immediately to get rid of a 150-year tradition of a 9-person court. Would they have